I have never in my life seen anything quite like this, and I've never felt this way in my life when covering college football. And here's the beautiful thing about it. This is great for college football fans. You should be eating this up and loving it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hope all of you having a great start to your week. If not, hope this video can make it a little bit better. And we got not one, not two, but three big-time topics to talk about and get into. Two of those involve quarterback situations with Utah and Cam Rising and Florida and Graham Merz. And what I'm going to label as the main topic is there is something going on in college football that I have never, and let me repeat that, I've never seen something like this happen before in my lifetime. We got a lot to talk about and dive into. I don't got time to waste. You don't got time to waste either. We're not even doing the intro. We're getting straight into it. First things first, you know who he is. He's been playing college football for dang near, this isn't even exaggerating, 10 years. Cam Rising, he is officially out indefinitely due to a lower leg injury. But here's the kicker with that. As to where it stands right now, according to reports, he's going to be eligible for an 8th season of college football, which means he could potentially be returning next year. I thought him coming back 2 or 3 years ago was insane. This year, I'm done with it, and next year, I mean, it's the same conversation. Like, what are we doing? As you can see right here, I quote tweeted it, and it's all there is to be said about it. Dude, get a job. And I have a ton of empathy for him. Injuries have cut his career short, but even me myself, when I had a career-ending injury, I knew, hey, I love playing sports. I'm one of the most competitive people you're ever going to meet in your life, but I knew it was over and I had to call it quits. I understand it. It's hard to give it up because you worked your entire life for it. It was hard for me, and I'm sure it's hard for him. But at a certain point in time, you got to come to terms with reality. It's over. And the reason I don't like this is because, and this is a part of it people don't think about, is if he comes back next year, he's taking an opportunity away from an 18, 19, or 20-year-old that should be playing quarterback for Utah. If he does want to return, I'm wishing him the best of luck. It's just one of those things. I'm sick and tired of these super old dudes taking away opportunities from other guys. I could go on a 10-minute rant just talking about that topic alone. Moving along here to our second topic, we got an update on Graham Merz. For those of you who don't know, Graham Merz was playing a pretty good ball game against Tennessee. Had Florida out to a 10-0 lead. Looks like they was going to walk away with it, but unfortunately, he suffered an injury. And the news continues to get worse for Merz in Florida. He is going to miss the remainder of the season because he tore his ACL. Devastating blow. Graham Merz, my thoughts and prayers, wishing for a speedy recovery. But here's where things get interesting. There's no more quarterback controversy at Florida. There wasn't really a controversy in the first place, but now it's DJ Lagway's team. Won't be looking over his shoulder. There's zero excuses. It's his team from this point on. And I think in the Tennessee game, people finally understood and realized, and I was saying it all year long, Graham Merz is a better quarterback, and it's not too close. With him in there, that Florida offense was doing pretty good. And as soon as he went out, I believe it was the first pass, DJ Lagway threw an interception in Tennessee, and Tennessee got points out of it. DJ Lagway is not ready to be the starter for a team in the SEC, but here he is, and it's going to be a good year to learn, and plus Florida's not going to do anything anyways. And I know what some people say, well, Matt, DJ Lagway makes a lot of great plays. Yes, he does, but he also makes freshman mistakes that can lose you a game. Graham Merz wasn't going to lose you a game, but Lagway, he has the potential to do that. I know against Tennessee, he had that late touchdown pass. It was great, but outside of that, that offense couldn't do nothing. It's Lagway time, whether people like it or not, and maybe, and this is a maybe, he can get Florida to 5 or 6 wins. Moving along here to our main topic, this is something I've been thinking about the past week. In all my lifetime of college football, when I could really start keeping up with the game and understanding it, it was around the age of 7, 8 years old, and when I was 7, to give you some context, it was the year 2007. And ever since that year, there's always been 2 to 3 just great teams in college football that were head and shoulders above everybody else. It felt like there was a big gap. You had your great teams, your good teams that could potentially upset the great teams, and everyone else was just meh. If you weren't inside the top 25, your teams that were like 75 through 100, they were not going to upset the big boys. Where I'm going at with this is there's a big talent gap. Your teams like Alabama, even Georgia, I know they weren't winning championships, but Georgia, Notre Dame, they're all your top 10 schools from 2007 up until 2021, 2022. They got all the talent. They were getting all the 5- and 4-star recruits. They were getting all the best players and so on and so on. Who else am I missing? Ohio State from that time frame, Florida, just your typical schools, LSU, and the list goes on and on, Texas, Oklahoma. Well, the past couple of years, we've seen these top-tier teams struggle with what used to be bottom feeders. And I know upsets have always been a thing. It isn't anything new, but this year, especially, it just feels like the games are a little bit closer and there's way more parity in college football. I'll pull up the top 25 in just a second, but let me use Alabama as an example real quick. From 2008 all the way up into last year, 2023, anytime Alabama lost, what do? We never said, oh, that team was better than Alabama. We always pointed to, oh, well, Alabama beat themselves. And how did Alabama lose this game? Okay, they had to have a crazy play. The ball bounced this way, the ball bounced that way. It was never, oh, yeah, Alabama wasn't the better team. It was always, okay, this team got lucky here, Alabama's field goal kicker missed 3 field goals, and so on, so on. And the same thing can be said for a couple other teams from that time frame. Well, now in the past couple of years, I'm even talking about when Saban was there from 2021 up until our current date and time, Alabama hasn't just been dominating teams anymore, and they've been in a lot of close games. For example, a couple years ago when Tennessee and LSU beat Alabama on the very last play of the game. Tennessee had a good team that year, and so did LSU, but it wasn't just those 2 games. Alabama barely beat Ole Miss that year as well. Alabama just straight up from the time frame of 2010 to 2020 just beat the absolute life out of teams. They might have had 2 to 3 close games the entire season. Well, the past couple of years, that has not been the case. I'd say Alabama per season has had about 7 to 8 close and competitive ball games. And you don't got to be a rocket scientist to put 2 and 2 together. It's because of NIL and the transfer portal. And I like using Alabama as an example, not because of what has transpired this year, but you know what I'm talking about. They did used to beat the crap out of everybody, but the past few years, games have been closer than normal. But let's take a look at the top 25, more specifically, the top 12 to 15. Outside of Texas, and the year isn't even close to being over, Texas may crumble like a cookie, who knows. But as it stands right now, outside of Texas, teams 2 through 15, they don't look great. They just look very good. Or not even very good. I don't even like saying that. They just look good. And it was really funny because when Bama lost to Vandy, I was like, all right, I got to drop these guys pretty far. But when I looked at all the other teams that I'd have to put ahead of them, I was like, well, no, that team hasn't looked too good either. For example, these aren't my rankings. These are the official AP poll rankings. LSU, Iowa State, Clemson, Tennessee, Notre Dame, BYU, Texas A&M, and Boise. Boise is Boise, not anything special. They just got Ashton Genty. A&M, same thing there. BYU, Notre Dame, lost to Northern Illinois. Tennessee can't even score on offense. Clemson got murdered by Georgia by 30. Iowa State hasn't played anybody. And then you got LSU. They're lucky they don't even have 3 losses. Alabama at 7. They look pitiful. They're kind of fortunate. They only have 1 loss. Miami, they're fortunate. They don't got 2 losses. Been playing in super competitive games. And look at Georgia. They lost to Bama, and Bama don't even look that good. Georgia also gave up 31 points to the worst team in the SEC. Look at teams 5 through 15. None of them have been really impressive this year. And if you say otherwise, you haven't been watching the games. Teams 1 through 4, it's a little bit different. Ohio State, they have looked pretty good this year, but the only meaningful game they've actually played in, they lost. Penn State, I'm not too high on them, but Penn State, I think we can all agree they could lose to anybody ranked inside top 25. Then we have Oregon. They look good against Ohio State, but yet again, Oregon, they struggle with the fighting potato wedges in Idaho, and they also barely beat Boise. And I feel like this year, all in all, outside the upsets, we've just seen super, and I mean super competitive games. For example, Saturday, we had how many games go down to the wire and go into overtime? Off the top of my head, we had Colorado, Kansas State. That was a close one at the end. Alabama, South Kakalaki, LSU, Ole Miss went into overtime. What else? Oh, yeah, Oregon, Ohio State. Penn State and USC, that one went in overtime. I go on and on and on. Tennessee and Florida, almost forgot about that one. Florida should have won that one, and they don't even have their starting quarterback. That one went OT. I have never in my life seen anything quite like this, and I've never felt this way in my life when covering college football. And here's the beautiful thing about it. This is great for college football fans. You should be eating this up and loving it. And I'll tell you firsthand, as a college football fan myself, I do love it. We have so much parity in the sport at this moment in time. It is utterly ridiculous. I genuinely feel like for the first time in my life that anybody can lose to anybody. And let's go back to this one, Alabama and Vandy. I know everyone wants to clown Alabama for losing to Vandy. I've done it enough. Alabama lost to the nerds. I've said that 1,000 times. But is that more of an indictment on Alabama being not as good as they normally have been? Or is it more of an indictment on how much better Vanderbilt is? For the past 10 years, Vanderbilt's been irrelevant, but look what they did after being the number 1 team in the country. A lot of teams would have a hangover, but no, they go into Kentucky's home stadium and upset them. And as where it stands right now, Vanderbilt is ranked 26th in the nation. I know what you're sitting there saying, Matt, how do you know Vanderbilt's ranked 26th in the nation? They don't even have a top 26. If you go to the other receiving votes in the AP poll, Vanderbilt's right at 26. So someone loses in front of them, they're going to be in the top 25. My point is, these lesser teams in the SEC, Big 10, ACC, wherever, Big 12, they're not as bad as they once were. They may still be bad or average or whatever you want to label them as, but the gap is closing. Your best teams in the SEC and Big 10 aren't just going to steamroll everybody like they used to. And what's really baffled me the past couple of weeks is Alabama and Georgia struggling. For the past 7 to 8 years, Alabama and Georgia have curb stomped everybody and they own the SEC. Well, in this year alone, we've seen it. Alabama and Georgia, they're still good, But these other teams in the SEC, they're getting better. And guys, I really believe I'm about to start changing my ways of thinking. Because normally when a top 10 team would lose to an unranked team, I'd go, haha, everybody point and laugh at them. I can't believe they lost to them. They suck. But now, I'm starting to have an NFL mentality on it. Let me explain. So when the worst team in the NFL, who's like 2-15, 3-14, something like that, upset somebody, I don't point and laugh and go, oh my goodness, how did that happen? Because they're professional athletes. We know the worst team in the NFL, on their good day, can beat the best team in the NFL. Why do we know that? Because even though they're the worst team, they still have talent. Well, now I think I'm going to start having that mentality when covering college football because I got to. And I hate to keep going back to this because it seems like we're talking about Alabama a lot, but they're a great example. Vanderbilt beats Alabama, and what was the topic? Oh my gosh, how did Alabama lose this game? But maybe we should have sat up here and said, you know what, Vanderbilt's a really good team and they got some good players. Or maybe saying Vanderbilt's a really good team might be stretching it, but you get what I'm trying to say. It's getting to the point where every single team in the NCAA, whether it's the Power 4, Group of 5, whatever, they're all talented to a certain degree. All in all, I think it's great for the game, and I know some people aren't going to like this, but I think it's reality. We are the NFL JV. The NIL and transfer portal has brought so much parity to college football, it's almost even hard to fathom. I can't be the only one who feels this way, that maybe we should start changing our mentalities. Whenever a top team loses to a team they should beat, we don't need to just point and laugh at the top team. We need to start giving credit to the other guy and saying, you know what? They played a heck of a ball game and they got good players. I'm extremely curious. Let me know your thoughts on all this down below. But Roman